So, okay, great. So, hi everyone. My name is Abby Cedro. I am with the GGP, the Gay Gaming Professional. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited. May is AAPI Heritage Month, and I think that it's just super key for us to amplify the voices of AAPI and just really just highlight these impactful voices and let us, basically have that platform to be seen and heard because, well, let's face facts. We're not really given that on the daily, and we want to just basically say thank you to the GGP, which is an amazing organization that really creates impact and community through media of live streaming and also community events such as this. So with me today are two of my sisters, and I say sisters because they truly are, Zoreen and Stephanie. So I'll let you guys take the lead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Zareen, or on Twitch, I'm Zordon of Doom. It's also my artist name. I'm a singer-songwriter, and like I say on my normal streaming platform, I play video games. But yeah, I'm signed with Rival in Rage Entertainment down in LA. Uh, my motto is basically just to find be okay with yourself and to express yourself, and I'm hoping that like my music can touch people in that same sort of way.
Hi, I'm
Beautiful.
Stephanie. I'm, I guess, a different field where I'm a young Asian professional outside of like the music industry. Um, Second generation of my family, oldest female, so the first daughter from both my parents of Vietnamese and Chinese descent. And I guess like instead of working on my free time, I'm just like hanging out with my fur baby and just binging on Netflix or some K dramas.
Amazing. Oh my God, I have a comment about K-drama because I just watched one on Netflix and it just like broke me in such a good way though. But thank you so much for joining, sisters. I want to give a shout out to Anthony Gooch. You're the one who made the sisterhood happen, and we are so thankful to you. Happy belated birthday and happy anniversary to you and Mariella. Yay! So, first and foremost, ladies, how is everyone doing? It's been like what, like 2 months since we last like spoke like this.
I mean, I think it's been going. I think, especially with the whole effects on like the Asian hate has increased since the last time we talked. I think I feel that it's hitting more towards home where it's coming closer to where at least like our area, like just in the Bay Area, I guess you could say. And it's just scary just because it's, putting me on like on edge every day. Like, don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be someone I know? Is it going to be my parents?
Yeah, we talked about that last time, and I know that we were all feeling some kind of way. Zoreen, has anything, maybe worsened or gotten better with you? Like, where are you at, head and heart?
I've sort of turned like into a turtle, so especially with all of the news that I've sort of been seeing, because my mom constantly comes in and she talks about it, so it's in my face a lot, and I've been trying to turn it off because it's so much, to the point where when I start to think about it like just a little bit, I start to tear up. But yeah, it feels like it's been getting worse. Thankfully I haven't had anything personal happen to me, but that's because I don't leave the house very much, and when I do, I'm always very, very cautious. Just people looking at me or like glancing, I get worried. There's like this sort of strange worry on top of it.
Yeah. I think, I talked to the two of you and to our other sister the other day that for the first time I felt unsafe. You know what I mean? When I was walking around after So backstory, I had my engagement shoot the other week and we did not have masks because hello, we're taking photos. And it was like, we had a photo pass and everything. So it was like really just me, my fiance, and our photographer. So, we all knew we're vaccinated. We all know each other. So it wasn't a big deal for us, like, not to be masked. But there was literally like a couple that was like following us in the venue that we were at, like yelling, "Put on your masks. What are you doing?" And we definitely felt a little harassed, but I didn't want to take away from that moment. And everything was fine. And then I actually stayed behind like an extra day, just because, I really enjoyed the peace and the quiet. So I stayed in this said city. I'm trying to be like super, just like, let's just not put everyone on blast today. Just walking around in said city and, had my mask on, walking around. It's a predominantly white neighborhood. Like, let's face facts. Everyone I ran into was, white. And, when they saw me, it was like just staring. Like, I didn't really understand why. And I took off my mask for like a quick second because I had like an itch on my nose. And I just remember this one couple kept walking up and down the same street to like make sure I was like wearing my mask. So I think that was like the only time I ever felt some kind of way because I was like by myself for the very first time in a very long time. And that kind of also made me into a turtle. So, I get it. And as women, that's an additional layer too, right? The feeling of not being safe. I kind of really wanted to dig deep into that as well. And, again, we always speak so freely and we're always such a huge support system for each other. And now I'm hoping that opening this up to a bigger community, we can also be a support to others who are feeling that kind of way. So I just kind of wanted to ask the two of you, like, how have you been feeling not only as AAPI, but also AAPI women?
I think I shared with you both and, our other sister about my experience recently. Like going through a job interview, I interviewed at a company where it was predominantly males. And everyone that I interviewed was, a Caucasian male. And, and I looked at the website and everyone, on the leadership board of directors, all like primarily Caucasian males. And, it was a little bit intimidating, like having to interview, but, I'm just like, okay, it's Zoom, like it's fine. I have no one to attack me. It's just a computer screen. And when I got to the final interview with the CEO, one, he was late, didn't apologize. Two, he mistaken me for another person with the exact same name. So he had my face on video while he had somebody else's LinkedIn profile with the same name. Clearly, it's like, I would get it if I was not on camera, like, and when he showed me the picture through Zoom, like, oh, isn't this your profile? I was like, no, that's not me. And like, he didn't have to apologize to me or, any kind of apology. He could just kind of brushed it, made light of the situation, but didn't. And I just felt like, was that because I'm a woman or is it because I look like a typical Asian woman? Like, because, a lot, the whole stereotype is like, oh, all Asian people look the same, especially women. And it's like, oh, like that girl looks the same as that other girl. So I was like, okay, like you couldn't tell the difference between me and this other female where we clearly look different. So, I mean, that with that experience, that put a really like distasteful experience in, like even if like I got the offer, I was like, I wouldn't want to work for someone that couldn't even tell me apart from a picture, of someone of a similar, Asian heritage as me.
I remember when you told us that, like, Zoreen, I know me and you were definitely like very verbally livid on our thread. And these are just the things that it's almost like, my God, how long do we have to put up with this, right? Like, I mean, just that type of behavior, and it's leadership. It's leadership. And that's like also something so huge about, diversity and inclusion, and not just saying diversity and inclusion, but actually practicing what you preach. You know what I mean? Like, are you planning on just having one specific demographic and one specific look and feel for your organization? If that's the case, then okay, fine. You know what I mean? But don't try to pretend that you are all about the diverse voices and the diverse personalities and things like that. Don't even put that in your like job description or anything if that's really not what you're about, just so that you can say, yeah, we're about D&I. Zoreen, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Because nothing is really it hasn't particularly touched me. It's touched like my mom, because my mom's a doctor, and so she has that a lot. I would hear stories from her about patients not wanting her just because she's Asian. They're like, I want someone else. They're like, you're not. There's like that stigma, and she would just sort of shrug it off. She'd be like, fine, okay, I could transfer you to another doctor. And it's small things like that pile up over time, and you just get used to it. You know what I mean? And I feel like because of that, I'm slightly desensitized to it. And I have to like really dig into my memory and be like, oh, that wasn't okay. Like, I know that wasn't okay, but like pinpointing exactly the reason why makes it a little bit hard for me to just, say my own experience. And I feel like that's probably the reason why. I think the closest it wasn't a job interview, because I graduated nursing and I was applying. This was like several years ago though. I was applying. I think I was talking to the board of nursing in Las Vegas, and I had graduated from a college in the Philippines. And I was talking to her and explaining my situation. I'm like, how do I get this done? What steps do I need to take to, make this transition? And then the moment I said that I went to a college in the Philippines, her voice, the tone in her voice changed. And I had never felt so insulted before. And I was like, it was so obvious. And the niceness in her voice and the things that she the whole conversation shifted from trying to help me to being, oh, you're different, you have to go through this route. And I was like, but why do I have to take English proficiency? I was born in California, I was born in the States, I can speak English. Why do I have to, like, no, you obviously, we're talking. Why is this issue? She was just very rude about it. I understand its requirements, but the way she had said it was very insulting. And I think that was the most like livid experience that I had talking to someone and being like, wow, do you not hear yourself?
Jeez, taking emotions aside, ladies, like, what would be your advice to someone who's experiencing that? I mean, like, let's face facts. Like, we're still in the height of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of, people that are still trying to figure out like what their path is. What would be your guys' advice to someone who is actually, to a woman who is experiencing that right now? Stephanie?
I mean, it's really dependent on the person. And I think just from our last conversation when we were, talking with our last podcast, just climbing up the ladder, just having that will, just trying to get by. I know it's like the whole, like, what Zareen said, like, we're like desensitized because, we always see like male leaderships up, up and above. But, like, I think just having that drive and just having that support system, especially like with our sisterhood, like if a person in my situation that went through the whole interview, like I would totally just be like, no, just brush it off. Like that's not someone you want to work for. Like there are jobs like, in this for everyone, and that may not be the right one. And those are like clear flags. Like I know like what you said, like, we're in the height of the pandemic, people are looking for employment, but like it's a time to be picky because you want to be in a place where you're comfortable. And
absolutely 110%. Yeah.
So, I think like my advice would be like, just continue the fight and just find the right place for you where you feel safe, where you can thrive and be yourself.
What advice would you give to someone who experiences what you went through? Because we've all gone through that, where someone's tone of voice or personality kind of changes.
Yeah. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop. Don't let someone else's voice stop you from achieving what it is you want and being like, maybe it's not for me just because of one or two people, because there's so many people in the world that not everyone is going to be like that. And the people who aren't, or who, yeah, the people who are that way will have to learn, because the world is evolving. People are waking up to the fact that these are issues. And if they don't evolve over time, they are going to, it's going to be detrimental to their company in the long run, because diversity is the way. Yeah, that would probably be advice.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like that's like terrific advice. I think that the one thing that we try to, it's tough to say, but we sometimes push things down because of the fact that you don't want to make waves, you don't want to cause problems, you don't want to necessarily be that person that's causing that conflict, right? You don't want to be known as that person. So that was something that's like super interesting. I think that we've been trying to navigate, especially, just like recently, right? You don't want to be that person that's bringing certain things up or certain issues up. In a time where it's important for us to speak up, how are you guys handling, for example, what are your thoughts and feelings when you see something that's not right? And how would you address it, especially now, given current state of environment? Like, how would you address it now?
It would, for me, it depends on who it is. If it's someone I don't know, especially if it's on the internet. I pick and choose my battles on the internet, because trolls, you have people who just say it and they don't really care. They're a brick wall. The more you try to fight them, the more they get a kick out of it. So I make sure that who I'm talking to is actually receptive, because sometimes you just can't get, you can't talk to a wall. You know what I mean? When people are thinking a specific way, that's all they want to think. Only when they're open to it is, and that's what I look for. But if it's a friend and I see it, I address it, but not like, if we're in a public setting, I pull them aside and be like, maybe you shouldn't do that. And I would talk and explain why. And I've done it before, even though I feel kind of foolish doing it sometimes, because I'm like, I don't like pointing out people doing things wrong. It's not very comfortable, but I feel like it's a conversation that really needs to be had.
I think I'm more of the opposite. I think I read this situation first, because, of course, like I don't want to put myself in like a dangerous like position. So, like if it's something that is really wrong and, I feel that I'm safe, with people around, then of course I'll speak up. But if it is like more alone, I have to gauge to see like, am I safe to speak up? it's as simple as like the other day, like I was picking up something for Mother's Day, and this kid behind me was like trying to cut in line, and I was just like, like everyone has their mask on, and I'm just like, hey, we're all in line, like waiting, like can you just wait behind me? Like, he was just so like not like impatient. And then same thing when we went to go get our vaccine. There's literally two people in line, me and the guy behind me. Like I was with my mom, but like he's literally the next person after us. And he kept inching and inching next to us. I was like, excuse me, like, can you keep your 6 feet distance? Like, it's still social distancing. Like, can you step back? Like, I don't want you to infect my mom. Like, I don't know where you've been. So, like if it's like gonna cause any kind of issues, like, like it's like not the safe, like my safety is compromised, or like my family, my friends, like I will speak up. But if it's like a dangerous where I can't read if the person is like drunk or on drugs, then of course, like I have to assess to see if that's something that I want to take on. But if it's going to cause issues for anybody that I care about, like I'm going to say something.
You know what's super crazy is that I'm now fearful of like kids. Like, because there's a lot of crime being committed by teenagers, like literally like 13, 14, 15. And I never used to be someone that would look at a situation and be like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared. I'm fearful of what that situation looks like. I mean, not to talk about like, obviously the, any trauma that's like happened, upon late, but, just like what happened here in San Leandro the other day, just an Asian elderly man was attacked by 3 teenagers. And I'm just like a 13, 14, 15. I know I'm not thinking of things like that. I'm just almost like, what the heck is going on in their minds to be like, let's go attack a very innocent elderly Asian man just for the heck of it, just for kicks and giggles. Like, these are things that I didn't become fearful of until super recently on such a consecutive daily basis, right? Like, you see someone walking and you're like, oh my God, I hope you get home safely. I hope, no one bothers you, touches you, or whatever. And then you're just trying to like, just keep a watch, right? Or just be very cognizant on what your surroundings are. But I don't know about you guys, but like my anxiety has definitely been a lot more heightened with everything that's been happening. How are you guys dealing with like your own mental health and your well-being in in this current environment?
I think it's a lot more like more self-care. I think pre-pandemic, like I think I like in working in the office, like you're just like, one more email, I'm going to do this, like I'm going to do one more email and one more email, one more report. And by the time you're like, oh, like it's 7 p.m. and you've been in the office 12 hours, I think I can speak for most people where they're just like, I'm just gonna get it done so I have a lighter load tomorrow. But work will always, I think, like what this whole pandemic has like taught me is like work will always be there. And I think with the pandemic though, I think because people are like, oh, people are home, like you should be at your desk, like like why are you at lunch? Your kitchen's right there, like you're just on edge, like, oh my gosh, like if someone's gonna call me. But I think like with the pandemic, I think it has taught me to really cut myself off from work. Like I need to help, have an outlet. And luckily, like working out is like one of my outlets. And like I've been trying to, like when I was working, I was trying to cut myself off at like 5:30 the latest. Sometimes it's gonna push to 6:30, but like I have to get off like to release all this stress from work. So definitely like self-care, whether that's some kind of hobby you pick up, any kind of outlet to just let the steam out and just not think about nothing. Like maybe it's like coloring or just binging on Netflix because you just, you're like, I want to live in that world or something. But just something to get your mind off so that you're not constantly thinking about, yes, like I know a lot of the things that are happening are really important, but it's okay to step away just for a minute for yourself, because, if it affects you so much, like you don't have that support, like take care of yourself at least.
Great advice. And Zoreen, I know that you said, like you've been gaming, like because we are a gaming community. I would love to hear, like your advice to, other gamers in this community. Like how are you using gaming as like an escape, self-care, kind of like your own wellness, like to feel, it's like it's your happy sweet spot, or just again, like your own version of nirvana.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say I 100% agree with Stephanie. Self-care, 100%, whatever makes you happy. That's like the one thing that I always say to people who ask is do something that makes you happy, whether it be one thing. Treat yourself to one candy bar. If you want to play it, but you feel like you have so much to do, like you have a load of laundry that you have to do. If you have to do something yourself at the end of it, so you have something to look forward to. That's where my mindset's always been. I actually started like streaming and gaming beginning of last year, like before the pandemic, like 2 months before everything shut down, and it was because of my mental health. Streaming actually helped me. And so just meeting new people online, I never thought that would be something that would be good for me, because I'm not a people person in like real life. Like when I go to parties, I'm that awkward person in the corner that's just like, the food's great. But that's typically me. But when I have something to talk about, like when it comes to video games, and there's something that we can communicate with, that has always been something that makes me happy. And so I think right now I'm at that place though where I'm playing way too many games. So it's about balance and like
what games? I know okay. The GGP is dying right now. Like what games is she playing?
So I have like a schedule. On Sundays I play Fantasia, Genshin Impact, Tales of Crestoria, Tales of the Rays, and they're mostly like gacha cell phone games. And then on Monday, I play Xenoblade Chronicles. On Tuesday, I play Final Fantasy XIV. Wednesday, I play Final Fantasy VI. And Thursday, I play Final Fantasy XIV. So like, it's okay, all over the place.
Awesome. I'm going to need a copy of this schedule so we can put that on our forum and our Discord and all of that. That's you. So amazing. Oh my God. That's
I
so
try.
Great.
It kind of sucks though, because I interact online. So it takes forever for me to finish a game. So it'll take me like what would usually take a person maybe a couple of days, sometimes takes me months. And it's become this sort of joke to the people who know me. They're just like, finish your video games. You've been on this for like 4 months. I'm like, but side quests. There's side quests.
I feel like that's me in Netflix shows. It takes me forever sometimes to finish a whole Netflix series unless I'm like super into it. So back to the K-dramas you were talking about, Stephanie. So I got super into Novelera on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that one?
No, I'm actually finished, or I started The Crown because
okay,
just like rest in peace to Prince Philip, but it triggered to me like, oh, and then my friend was watching it, she's like, oh yeah, like I finished all 4 seasons. I was like, I'm gonna jump on it. I'm actually on the 4th season now, so
high five.
But after that I was gonna watch that actually after.
Okay, I'm not even gonna ruin it for you. I will just say, always have Kleenex next to you. I don't think I have ever cried so much in the series, and it wasn't even necessarily every single moment was sad. it's life lessons. And I feel like it's very pertinent life lessons, especially to now. So I think that's the reason why I just started getting all like choked up about it. But anyways, Novel Era, thank you to my mom for getting me super hooked on that. But yeah, as I was saying, like I can never finish like a whole freaking Netflix series unless I'm like super dedicated to it. And I mean like I stay up all day and night to finish it. So like I did that with Selena, the series. Oh my God, it was so good. I finished it last night, cried so hard. Well, I mean, we all know how that ends. But I'm just saying, like, it was just very impactful to see, especially a woman, right? In, you know, trying to make it in a certain genre. And even her own culture wasn't very accepting of her at first. So, you know, and again, that ties into like just everything that we've been talking about, like, you know, that feeling of sometimes not belonging, right? And that becomes so heavy for all of us, especially like, again, like as women. So I wanted to talk to you, Zorin, because you mentioned about like streaming and we have trolls, you know, popping up and things like that. And sometimes that can be a very heavy load, especially for anyone who's on Twitch or any of these streaming platforms, even like Clubhouse or, you know, any of these other drop-in, you know, kind of like media. How do you navigate that, and how do you handle that personally?
Two things. One, not very well. Two, I'm still trying. It's a work in progress, because when you're confronted by someone who out of nowhere, you don't expect it, and then I, for one, I'm very careful with my words, so it looks like I'm lagging, like I freeze because I'm trying to think of what I could say that's not offensive, and I'm also like holding myself back. And having mods and moderators in chat 100% helps. People who, a good support system, people behind you that you can turn to and just like vent and just cry it out. It's totally natural. It's totally okay. I've had especially being a woman in a streaming community, sometimes that comes with, you know, some people come in and are just like, oh, where's the cleavage? And you're just like, oh, it's I try to make it into a joke and be like, okay, and then I move on. I'm like, oh, you're talking about this person or this character. I'm like, it's right here. It's in the game, see? And then I just move on. It's things like that. But there are certain little, you know, we all have like weak moments. And it's okay to have those weak moments where you're on an off day, just the smallest thing is just enough to like, oh, and then you just want to cry. But
has that affected sometimes your streaming though? Like, you know, I guess like, you know, you have such a dedicated like schedule, right? But then can one person or one situation just affect all of that for you? And then how do you get past that and say like, all right, let's do this again?
100%. There was one case recently wherein I was like, I just need a break. Like 5 days, I had to take a full week off because because streaming brings me joy. Gaming brings me happiness. So there were moments where I really wanted to, but I knew I shouldn't, because I would put myself in a situation where if someone said something or referenced it, I might go off or I would, my mood would affect chat. That's one thing that I feel like, as a streamer, you need to be yourself and be as positive and, you know, as you can be, because you're trying to you try and bring an image, but if you're trying too hard, you might break. And it's just something that you have to be able to just back away from and be like, I need to put me first. And usually that's the best thing you can do. Be kind to yourself. Just be nice to yourself.
I love that. That is such great advice to especially like our streaming community, you know, right now where everyone's kind of finding these platforms, right, in social media to be kind of like their outlet, their escape. And that's my next question to you, Stephanie. Like, I know that like, you know, you're very, active like on like Instagram and things like that, with like scrolling and liking and things like that, just the way that I am. However, do you feel that being in our current climate, we've had to kind of take a step back in the things that we're sharing and the things that we're commenting on or posting? Have you felt kind of like a shift in like your normal, and I say normal like very like just loosely, social media practices?
I mean, I feel like yes, in a way, like not maybe for particularly myself, but I could see how it could affect others, like what you're saying, like things that you may normally think may sound like a joke now are going to be like offensive, right? Like like I think like for those that are more public figures within like the whole social media world, they do have to watch like what they say. And I think like I sometimes like I get really angry when people are posting on their stories, and like especially when they're like part of our AAPI community. I have a friend, I don't know if he's like joking or like trolling. Like I would see sometimes like comments on like Gavin Newsom's like posts, like him like trolling him. And I'm just like, why? Like, like, are you on our, his side, or are you on, Trump's side? And I'm just like, but then at the same time, I've seen you post where you're anti-Trump. So are you just trying to be funny? And it gets me kind of angry when people like, it's just like for the views and values that, Trump has shared, it really like for myself, like my in-laws, I think we talked about it in the last podcast where a lot of the older generation, they don't think about what the candidates say. They're just more of like Republicans are traditional, they're conservative, so I follow their views, versus Democratic, where it's like more loose, like like the new, and they don't get that. And I think like I feel that right now on social media a lot of people are more cognizant. I think I've seen less stories now and less posts where you can be loose about what you're saying, or like even the language that people are posting. But definitely like within like a more like intimate group, like a more closer friendship, of course, like if I'm like commenting on something, I'm not going to be anything offensive. But I think I've seen a shift when scrolling through on the language that is being used. Definitely.
100%. That was actually another question I had for you ladies, but we ran out of time the last time. Have you seen a shift in your connections and friendships since this pandemic? And if so, has it been because of political views? Has it been because of social, equity like issues? Like what has been the shift? Because I can say that a lot of friendships and connections have changed, especially in this pandemic. And I kind of wanted to ask you both, what have you experienced, in this pandemic? Has there been a shift in your connections and friendships?
Most definitely. I think with the pandemic, I guess like all of us had to kind of reduce our like social circle, especially when, in the beginning where you're like, oh, we're going to be shut down for a month. And then like, it just keeps going and going. And you're like, who am I going to see? But then you're like, like you don't want to affect one household to another, because like, the whole transmission with, this virus is just so rapid. So in terms of like, I think it's hard when you're just like constantly like texting or like, Zooming. It's a different kind of interaction, but it does take someone that has to initiate that. And I think like because people were more worried about their well-being, maybe like families, maybe personal things came up, I think that took up more time. And again, like with the whole work-life balance, everyone's home. So, I think people got caught up of their work schedules, like you're like, oh my gosh, is it Wednesday? Oh, it's already Friday. Like, it's just, I think it definitely changed everyone's lifestyle. And I think the pandemic did really show, not saying like true colors, but more like who stay true to me. And, and from this too, like meeting new people from our last podcast and building this sisterhood, I think in the middle of the pandemic, maybe like within the last year, I felt like, how do you reach out to someone that you haven't talked to like in 3 months? How do you build that friendship back up? Just because, you may have lost touch, but, a lot of the times it's like, what can we talk about? Because like we're all home and it's the same repeated thing. Like it boggles my mind. Like, like how do you build up that friendship again if like you just lost touch because you just wanted to stay away to keep safe? Just like how Zareen said, you don't want to go outside because of this pandemic that forced us to be inside. But at the same time, like there's things that are happening that, put us in danger as well. Like you're like, oh, I don't want to just drive, around the corner to get something, but what if something happens to me? So I think one of the questions that I have, or that I always ponder and I always talk to my husband about, like, it's like, how do you catch up with someone when you can't see them? So hopefully like with this, vaccination, it opens the door to seeing more people, keeping everyone safe at the same time. But how do you rebuild those friendships that you may haven't seen someone in the last year now?
I guess if it's a true friendship, it's going to be there no matter what, right? Like no questions asked. You're just going to be able to just like basically carry on as if nothing even happens. So I guess that's also a true testament to the friendship and connection. So yeah, that is interesting though. Like I've definitely been on that wavelength too. Like I haven't talked to this person in a while. Like if I were just like, hey, like would that be like weird? Just checking in on you, like you doing good. But yeah, Zoreen, I'm curious. I'm sure you've made streaming friends and community and all of that. Like how are you guys keeping in touch? Are you guys doing like weekly streams together to just kind of keep that connection going?
Well, I feel like it's weird because it feels separate right now because there's like the internet friends and then you have the friends that you've known but you haven't seen in time. I'm very lucky. I have like two of my best friends who I've known since kindergarten. That hasn't changed. So I still have them around and we still hang out, which is really nice.
No, that's awesome. That's not nice. That's awesome. That's kudos to you guys. Yeah.
So I definitely feel very lucky because of them. But my streaming friends, like Discord is like the best way. I know there's a bunch of because I'm really bad with multitasking. So when we use Discord and I'm streaming and then having to read chat is something I cannot do. It's a problem because I start getting really confused. But we support each other by either going to each other's streams, checking in with each other, direct messaging. Hey, are you okay? I haven't seen you in a while. What's new with your schedule? That's basically been the sort of community. Streaming has developed into this really like cool sort of community that I never realized I was a part of until I started going to other people's streams just randomly. Like they come in and they're like, wait, you know this person and they know this person. And then everyone is just sort of connected. And it's just like, wait, what? It's crazy how you sort of start to branch out and you're inadvertently networking while you're streaming. And it's something that I learned not really realizing that I was doing it. But yeah, we basically, I think at the end of the month, we'll be doing like an Among Us thing. We don't do it very often. Playing games that involve the community is quite nice, like marbles on stream, which is, I thought that was kind of weird at first. And then I was like, oh, I can put in my marble, I can enter. And then you just watch your marble go down and you're just like, this is really fun for some reason.
They're all just like, oh my God, we need to get her on our stream while she's actually streaming, and then someone's discording and someone's chatting. I'm still learning all of these terminologies, by the way, so I'm probably using all of these wrong. I'm only on Twitch because of the GGP, and then I also discovered like virtual concerts, right? Which was also available on Twitch. So I was like, yes, because I miss concerts so much. So it was like very nice to have that community too, you know, and even like sending emojis were just so impactful and powerful, you know, just sending it like on Twitch. So yeah, no, absolutely. I love like the talk of community, and I love the fact that we're building these new relationships and friendships, and they weren't in real life. I mean, like, look at us, for example. Right. And our other sister. I mean, the fact that Gooch, first of all, kudos to you for just like being like, they're gonna work famously, and sure enough, like we've been like keeping in touch like ever since, and it's been so great. I think that that's been super helpful too. Like I know that at the end of the day, if I'm feeling some kind of way and I'm not feeling comfortable maybe like saying it to an online presence or anything like that, I can go to our thread and I can be like, this is what happened today. And then you ladies will give the most like supportive and loving, you know, like encouragement. And that has been so appreciated beyond measure. So just want to just say thank you for that. I know that we talked the last time on our podcast about our upbringings, right? And how that has definitely helped and developed us into the women that we are now. I think that what my final question for us to kind of talk about like tonight is, how do you feel that we as like, you know, elders to youngsters now can basically impact them into being more inclusive, being more understanding, being more appreciative of the fact that they can create a sense of belonging at such a young age and have that develop to their adulthood. I kind of wanted to know your thoughts on that, because we did talk about our upbringing a little bit and how it shaped us. And I just kind of wanted to know, how do you feel that we can basically shape our younger generation now? And in what ways can we do that?
I mean, I think like for myself and my husband, like we talked about, you know, starting a family soon. And I think one of the things that I think I guess compare with the kids now, just because he teaches kids martial arts. So like that's so he, you know, he deals with like different kids, and he always tells me like different stories about like, oh my God, this kid is so like, you know, respectful, and others are like on the other wavelength. And I think, I don't know if it's just like because of what you said about our upbringing, because for like our family, like my parents and his parents, like being refugees and coming over here and having to feel like they had nothing, and like building up to having something, and making sure that we don't have to work that hard to have that something. Just having, I guess, having that same mentality for us when we raise our kids. So I think a lot of the times when we see some of the most current, you know, generation is like, they get things like at ease, right? They're like, I want the latest iPhone. They get it, you know, with a snap of a finger, you know, I want this iPad, I want this, I want that. Like, I think it comes to a degree where you have to kind of have them work for it. And I think one of the things that we want to instill in them is like, you know, yes, we'll give it to you, but you have to work for it. You know, like not giving them that luxurious, like giving them a luxurious life, but not spoiling them, I guess you can say. I guess that's the right word. But, you know, just instilling what our parents have taught us, and like trying to put that mentality that we had, even though we didn't endure, you know, their rough life of, you know, coming from that refugee life and coming over here, just trying to instill those principles in them. And then also teaching them like, you know, there is color, but you don't have, you know, include all color, include any person regardless, you know, like everyone's different. That's what makes them, beautiful, and just include each and every one of them.
Be such a good mommy. We're going to be the best aunties. So, Zorina, how about you? I know that we talked a little bit about, upbringing the last time, and we all had different stories, obviously, that tied into why we are who we are, why we feel the way that we feel. What are some things that have definitely stayed with us, right? Good, bad, happy, sad. I just kind of wanted to know your thoughts on, how do you feel we can be a good impact, be a positive impact to this younger generation?
I feel like something that really helped me growing up, at least, was, I feel like, the idea of empathy, having empathy, and finding ways where kids can feel and understand how to empathize with another individual, no matter who or where they came from, is key. Because no matter who you are or how closely related, even if you're in like your sisters, you live the same life, you had the same, your thoughts are different. And so just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes gives opens an entire world of kindness and being able to relate. And you become extra careful with what you say and how you say, because words are so important. Like they say, sticks and stones may break great bones, but words will never hurt me. Words hurt. Words last. They stick with you. So I feel like I've been seeing a bunch of I don't know what they're called. They're not memes, but they're also not inspirational quotes. But they're on the left side, there are things that parents would typically say, and then on the other side, it's how you could say it differently to a child,
okay.
so that they can
Okay.
so it's more of a positive impact. And I've been saving a lot of those lately.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Because it's something that I was like, I wish that was said to me when I was younger, and I wish it was something that I knew to say to other people, because being very harsh and direct sometimes has the opposite effect, because sometimes kids use what you say on other people, and it's hard to control. You can't control, obviously you can't control your kids. They have their own life, they have their own mind, but the best that we can do is guide them through these situations so they don't have to go through or hit every single wall head first. And that's, I think that's like
So
the
true.
basis. Yeah.
So true. So I'm going to wrap up what I talked to you guys about last time. Remember how I told you about certain individuals bullying me when I was like younger? So this is my way of creating positive change. Hopefully, younger generation, you are listening and you learn. So this sweatshirt that I'm wearing, super cute. It says "Stop Asian Hate," was actually designed by one of my bulliers. Yeah. So I'm not going to name names. No, I'm not going to give you a shout out, even though you said so in your card to me. I want to say your design, super impactful, super cute, and I will sport it with pride because of the message. However, to those that bullied me in the past, I want you to know that I forgive you, because I think it's important for us as adults to identify that sometimes as a younger generation, there might be just some things that maybe weren't learned or maybe weren't understood. And so maybe your sense of belonging, your sense of inclusion, your sense of empathy, and your sense of care is a lot greater now. I mean, creating something like this shows that hopefully what you were in the past is no longer what you are now. Because creating something like this can be hypocritical if you are still currently a bully and if you still have that same mentality. I wanted to use this platform to not only say thank you for the super cute outfit, super impactful message, but this is my way of saying that although I know at a young age you wanted to break me and you wanted to basically make me feel bad for who I was and who you think I identified as or with, I want you to know that you actually helped strengthen me in a way that I'm forever grateful for. I'm here to say that I forgive you. And I'm here to say that I hope that with all this time that has passed, that you are teaching your children to be inclusive, to be loving, to not see color, to not see culture, to not see skin. I want you to see heart. And I'm hoping that you have grown past all of that and you do see that. But again, I thank you. I support you in the sense that this is a very great message to have on a very cute outfit that I will sport. Like I said, I will not name you. I will not give you a shout out. Thank you for the card. I don't know if you asked, that you knew that it was me who ordered it, but that's okay. Past is past. And I just want to teach the younger generation that although trauma and hurt and words can hurt you right now, you will get past it. And you have a community like us, me, Zoreen, Stephanie, the whole GGP community to basically tell you that no matter straight, gay, LGBTQ, trans, Black, Latin, Asian, what have you, we are here to accept you, we are here to love you, and we are here for you. So, Zoreen and Stephanie, I absolutely adore you both. I cannot thank you enough for our sisterhood. We are totally getting together because we're all vaccinated and, it's just our little bubble. So we'll be fine. But in all honesty and all seriousness, thank you so much to everyone who has joined us from the GGP, from Zoreen, Stephanie, and myself. We thank you. We say, love yourself, be authentic, and never apologize for who you are. Have a good night.